Hi, I'm Libby Rodriguez. I'm here to talk to you today about Paleo Places. Paleo Places is an urban planning concept or a framework or a filter against which urban planning and development projects can be evaluated. Um, Jane Jacobs said in one of her books that planning is a pseudoscience. And she was kind of referring to the fact that, um, there was a lot of subjectivity and kind of faddishness to urban planning. And, obviously, in calling it a pseudoscience, that was something that she didn't agree with. Um, Actually, my friends and I noticed clear back in grad school in the 80s that there was a lot of that type of thing going on. We had a thing we called planning bandwagons, and for example, so in the 80s, everybody was building or wanted to build a convention center because, like, a convention center, one size fits all. It will save your downtown. Gary, Indiana was building a convention center or planning one or something when I was in grad school. An example of a current planning bandwagon, although I guess still going on, it was like it started being big, 10 years ago or something, is trolleys. And I'm not anti-trolley. I'm not even anti-convention center. I'm just anti one size fits all. And the reason that I think really evaluating these projects is so important is in my upcoming book, Paleo Places. I have a quote. Oh, and I'm going to warn you right now, I wear glasses, and I had them on when I started shooting this video, and it's awful. They're reflecting the light really well. So I've chosen not to wear my glasses. I can't see very well. So like right now when I read this, I have to hold like this. Okay, so here we go. Okay, people are living, dying, and raising kids in these places we are building, and it seems as though we are jumping on and off these planning bandwagons without enough thoughtful consideration, especially given the enormous repercussions of these decisions. So, that probably makes sense to everybody that we need to, really evaluate these things and not just against maybe other cities that are doing the same thing, but against what? How do we evaluate them? What is the framework? What is the filter? So that's where we're going with this. When I was explaining this whole thing to one of my old Ball State University college professors, he said to me, well, is Paleo Places another planning bandwagon? So, that stung a little bit, like, fair point. But I would say no, because I'm going to be doing a series of these videos, right, where I'm going to be presenting the characteristics of Paleo Places that are going to establish a framework for evaluating projects. But I'm not married to any one of the individual characteristics. If people point out to me that there's a problem with one of them, or that maybe I forgot one, or, if new information is available, then, we should constantly update the framework. But what is important is having a framework, and also what is important is where the framework comes from, which is what I'm going to be getting to. So I hopefully don't think that this is another fad or planning bandwagon. Okay, so how did I think this up? So, from my first little story, obviously since grad school, I've thought that we needed something like this, but I didn't really know what it was. I was actually have been collecting maps and pictures and articles and site plans and stuff, like looking at medieval towns, looking at villages in Africa, or looking at, what did the Romans do? Every town had, a forum and a coliseum and an amphitheater. Like, what's that all about? Is that good? Is that bad? but then this other thing happened. So I have 6 kids, and I think that's like a plus, right? In planning, because I've really been in the trenches all these years, trying to drag strollers off and on buses and car pickup lines at schools, and that sort of thing. So my oldest son was probably college or just out of college or something. So we live in Florida, we live in Tampa. But he had gone over to Celebration, Florida, with some of his friends. For the uninitiated, Celebration is a little neo-traditional town that Disney built, like kind of sort of by the parks. So he went over there, and then I asked him about it, and he's very cynical. I think he might be a Gen Xer. I don't know where the cutoffs. He's 1982. So anyway, regardless of his generation, he's kind of cynical guy. So he kind of sniffs and says, "Celebration is the devil," and like he doesn't like it. Now mind you, I'm not anti-celebration. I like the theme parks, and I don't hate Celebration. There's cool stuff about it, but and he didn't hate it. They, even though they were poo-pooing it, they stuck around, had lunch, whatever, but he said Celebration is the devil. And his friend Jordan, he said, compared it to something out of the Stepford Wives, and this kind of piqued my interest, and I asked him more questions, and he goes, "I don't know, it's just kind of creepy." And then we started talking about other stuff. But that kind of stuck with me, creepy. And a lot of the reason why is that that's not the first time that I've heard that, that people had described it as creepy, and so I started kind of thinking about that and looking into it a little bit. And I learned in social psychology classes years ago that there's these primal emotions, and then there's like kind of these other little emotions that spring out of them. So if you look up like creepy, that's kind of the primal emotion associated with that is fear. Okay, so why the hell would you be afraid of the town that Mickey Mouse built, right? So fear, what? So but again, like I'm interested. So I start looking into some stuff. So the guy that designed Celebration, Dwani, he also did Seaside, Florida. So Seaside, Florida is another little neo-traditional town in the panhandle of Florida. And that's where the Truman Show was shot. That's like the set for the Truman Show. What is the Truman Show? Okay, so the Truman Show is, if you haven't seen it, watch it. It's a movie about a person that's being tricked. Like he's being tricked. Like his life is a big sham. It's a lie. It's a movie set. I'm not going to tell you about the whole Truman Show. Just, it's a movie about somebody that's being tricked. So my son and his friends and a lot of other people had described Celebration, which is similar to Seaside, as being creepy. So where's that fear coming from? So I got to thinking that just stick a pin in Celebration for a minute, and let's look into why am I calling this Paleo Places, right? Okay, so humans spent 250,000 years, like it's been about, give or take, 250,000 years since humans evolved. Okay, so of that time, we've spent, give or take, about 10,000 years in cities and towns. So 250 total, 10,000 cities and towns. So if you do the math, and if I'm doing it right, that means about 5% of our entire existence has been in these cities and towns, in these situations that we're living in now. And then the other 240,000, 95% of our freaking existence, including, like our origin, was not, it was like on the savannah, right? Or, spreading into other kind of hunter-gatherer situations in other parts of the world as we started to migrate. but not in cities and towns. Okay, so fear, as I said, is primal emotion. I'm looping us back to celebration now. Okay, so fear, as I said, is like a primal emotion, or is a primal emotion. And so during our whole entire 95% of our past, if you were walking into a situation where it seemed as though you were being tricked and things were not as they seemed, you would correctly feel fear, because that would be possibly some kind of ambush or something, right? Now it's not. We're pretty safe. Like those of us that I'm talking to that are, living in the United States and, in the 21st century, we're pretty safe most of the time, but we still experience these primal emotions. On a psychological level, people have anxiety, panic attacks when they're not really, in a life or death situation. And it goes back to those primal feelings. So what I'm telling you is that certain environments, not just these kind of heavily orchestrated, neo-traditional towns that have a fakiness to them, there certain characteristics of our environment can ping these primal emotions. Okay, so the kind of stagedness and fakeness of the celebration and seaside that are heavily curated are pinging our fear emotion. And then that's when I kind of hit on it, is we should find out what other characteristics of our paleo origins might be pinging different deep-seated needs or fears within us, and then try to really tailor our current environments to be the best fit possible. So we can't revert to the savannah. I know that a lot of people are going back to the land and doing permaculture, food forest, blah blah blah. But there's a reason that the agricultural revolution happened when it did, and we can talk about that in a different video. And the extinction of the megafauna and the need for food, and there's exponentially more people now than there were then when we made the decision to go to agriculturally based culture and start settling down and living in cities and towns. So my purpose here is not to tell everybody to return to hunter and gatherism, but to identify characteristics that we can kind of bring forward, or that maybe we can retrofit in our current modern cities and towns. So again, my plan here is to do several videos, like a series of videos and concurrent blog posts, where I'm going to be talking about the characteristics of Paleo Places. And then I'm also going to do a series of videos and blog posts about the books that are some of the source material for these. Like some of my research, involved, other people's books, and kind of on, psychology and anthropology, and even a couple on mathematics. Interestingly, you're going to really like those. So I'm going to be doing a series on the source books, and then my third series will be interesting. I am going to start evaluating some projects against the characteristics of Paleo Places. So my first two are going to be the new Egyptian capital, and then secondly the Line, which is the new city that is being built in Saudi Arabia. I'm going to evaluate those against the characteristics of Paleo Places and tell you what I think. So I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks.